So today I'm going to be reacting to a video that Glenn Loury made with Murray about a year or so ago, where they talked about threats from the left and threats from the right. And he detailed what he believed to be some of the threats from the right. And it was interesting because when he put it, it was kind of different from the sort of threat that people would believe would come from the right. And I found it fascinating, and it's been on my mind to react to this for a very long time, and I'm finally getting to do this, so let's get into it.
What is the threat from the right?
This is where disaster is looming the closest. And I'm going to give a somewhat different take on it than probably other people have, but I'm not really worried about the white supremacists and the white nationalists. I think they're a very small component of the right. I'll tell you who I'm worried about.
Now, that's a very interesting take, because many people on the left, when they talk about the threat from the right, what they always pivot to is the white supremacists, the white nationalists. But those people are so small, they're so fringe, they are so discredited that they're almost powerless. There's nothing they can really do. If you want to really talk about what the threats from the right are, those people are so fringe that there is little they can actually do to affect anything.
I'm worried about all of the working class and middle class whites who have had it beaten into their, they can't turn on the TV without yet another reference to the fact that they are bad people, that they have white privilege, that they have been the cause of blacks' problems and the problems of people of color in general, and that they had better do their ways or else.
If you look at it, ordinary white people living their lives every day and them being accused of being the cause of problems of black people, of being racist, of having white privilege, when they themselves might have their own challenges. They're just living normal, regular lives, yet they are being accused of this thing that they have no part in. Something like that their ancestors may have been guilty of, but they are not guilty of. So why do they have to bear that responsibility? And it will build resentment, it will build anger. In that sense, you don't even want to listen to the other side. The walls come up when issues of race are brought up in the first place. They're already primed based on these accusations that they are the cause of problems of black people. They're already primed to feel defensive. So even when there should be an avenue for dialogue, for conversation, for solutions, both sides are mutually suspicious because one side is already accusing the other side and demonizing the other side.
A lot of these people are angered by this in a very visceral way. They're saying to themselves, hey, I have black colleagues at work, Latino work coworkers, and people in my neighborhood, and I treat them with respect and I treat them with friendship. I have not behaved as a racist. I am trying to raise my kids and get them through college and make ends meet, and I'm working my ass off, and I sure don't see that I have any white privilege. And so you will not see an in-depth reporting on this kind of white person by the mainstream media. At least I haven't seen it. That's got to be a big number of people.
You won't see any sort of reporting on this kind of people at all. You won't see it at all. Most of the time, they're going to be silent. They're not going to say anything. It's just going to keep bottling up inside of them till one day it erupts. But that is where the real danger lies. These are the majority. These are silent majority who are not saying anything, but they are slowly building up resentment. And somehow they will have to act out that resentment somehow. They have to act out that frustration somehow. And nobody wants to find out how they do that, because it's going to be bad for everyone. The outcome is not going to be good for anyone at all. So when people are playing this identity politics, everyone can play the game. Everyone can play the game. Everybody can play the game. But one side not playing the game right now and taking it calmly doesn't mean that they don't have the capacity to play the game. And if everybody decides to start playing the game, it becomes a problem. And remember the last time whites were so deep into this game of identity, of essentializing their race, of making it the primacy of everything. And we saw how disastrous it was for humanity. We saw how it led to slavery, saw how it led to segregation, even in terms of the Holocaust and all of those things. Those things were based on identities, based on essentializing racial identities, saying, oh, my racial identity is unique. My racial identity is superior. De-emphasizing humanity itself, and this is what we should be calling for. We should be calling for humanity more rather than this emphasis on black on
Blacks
white.
constitute 12.7% of the population as of 2020. All right. Latinos are at about 18% of the population. And let's face it, an awful lot of the energy for the progressive critical race theory is coming from blacks specifically. So now you got 13% of the population there. Non-Latino whites still constitute 60% of the population. That's way down from 30, 40 years ago, but it's still 60%. What is the proportion of that 60% who are really, really getting pissed? What is the proportion of them who are, and here's where the danger is, Glenn, are starting to say to themselves, well, guess what? I'm an identity too. And you want to play identity politics? Okay, we can go with that playbook.
What he said here is a very simple mathematical calculation. If this is the business, if the business of identity is what everyone is going to be playing, then it's a numbers game. Who's going to win ultimately? Those who have the numbers. And who's going to win ultimately? Those who control the institutions. And we can very well say that still the whites overwhelmingly control institutions. So what happens if they decide to say, I want to play this game too, and I'm going to play it as good as you are playing it right now? What happens then?
Proportion of whites who not just voted for Donald Trump. You can have voted for Donald Trump for all sorts of reasons that doesn't make you far right. But no, it's no longer that. It's no longer political in the sense it was before. It's a much more racially grounded fight than it was before. Now, do I know for a fact that you have this phenomenon going on? I can point to indicators. But how much of that is the result of the last couple of years, and how much of that has been growing because of white middle class and working class anger at the elites that goes back to the 1990s? I don't know about that. I'm saying that if whites start to play identity politics, then basically we're facing some kind of disaster. I don't know how it's going to play out.
He made a very good point there. When people are pushed to the wall, they will be forced to react, and nobody can predict which way their reaction is going to, nobody can predict which way their reaction is going to go. So I think it's a very dangerous thing. I think it's a bad thing for identity politics, especially of the racial kind, to be pushed. I think people should understand that, first of all, we're all humans, and that's what really matters. And you should treat the other person not as a skin color, not as part of a certain ethnicity or part of a certain race, but as a human being. Treat them with the basic decency and be charitable to them. And until they prove otherwise, then just assume that they're a good, decent human being. But if they turn out to be a shitty human being, then you can react appropriately to them. That's the video. Tell me what you think about Charles Murray and his conversation with Glenn Loury. Do you really think that the real threats from the right are those everyday normal white people who may get fed up with this constant accusation? Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.